right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I'm going to talk about the Royals here real quick as I head into the office. There was an article posted out on MLB Trade Rumors, which is if you're not familiar with that site, they do a great job of not just breaking down trade rumors, but really breaking down all sorts of insider industry news in Major League Baseball. They basically compile source information from lots of different sources. So anyway, it's a really good site to follow, and they have lots of information out there, especially if you're interested in wanting to know what's going on. As the trade deadline comes up, and free agent acquisitions, and what's the basically player movement between teams, and sometimes even within teams, like within the minor leagues and whatnot. So anyway, there was an article posted on MLB Trade Rumors about how Dayton Moore has let other teams know that everybody on the Royals is available for trade, except for Hunter Dozier and Alberto Mondesi. So that would include Whit Merrifield. So naturally, there's lots of discussion on Facebook and Twitter over the weekend as the Royals just puked all over themselves again and just could not score enough runs to beat the Rangers, despite getting hits all weekend long, just tons and tons of hits, just could not score any runs. So a lot of the talk, instead of just kind of beating a dead horse about how bad the offense was and the pitching this weekend, really kind of just centered around, well, what does this mean? What does this rumor mean? What can we expect to see going forward? Well, let's address some of the obvious things, or some of the smaller obvious things first. Homer Bailey, Martin Maldonado, Billy Hamilton, even Chris Owens, who is no longer with the team. Chris Owens was designated for assignment, and he's gone. Lucas Duda. All these guys were signed, in the hopes that they would fill a temporary gap and then could be traded for prospects. The problem is, Dayton Moore, I've said many times, Dayton Moore is not stupid. He is a good baseball mind. But I question some of his judgments, especially spending money on mid-level to below mid-level free agents. You just don't get your return on that. So when the Royals sign these players, I was not happy with any of the signings. I thought they should just go with the minor league players, let them fill in for the time being, and maybe you'll find something. You know what you have in Billy Hamilton. You know what you have in Lucas Duda. You know what you have in Chris Owens and Homer Bailey, all these guys. They're not going to magically get better. They are who they are. Borrowing from Denny Green, they are who we thought they were. And let them off the hook. But no, seriously. But all joking aside, these guys the Royals might get cash for some of these players. Maldonado might return something, for someone looking for a catcher, a backup defensive catcher for a playoff run. Other than that, none of the other guys are going to get. The Royals aren't going to get anything for him because all these players were available. And I even question if Maldonado would draw any interest in either, because he was still available so late in spring training and was obviously not ready to start the season. Which I did that, and that's why I thought it was a huge mistake for the Royals to sign him, because it did put them in a really bad position. Is Cam Gallagher a top-level catcher? No. Is Valoria ready? No. Based on his minor league numbers this year? No, he's not ready at all. but at the very least, those guys would have been ready to play. Maldonado wasn't ready to play. So I'm getting a little off track here. So would any of these guys get anything in return for the Royals? Like I said, you might get some cash, but you're not going to get a player. And if you get a player, it's going to be a low A ball, a guy rated probably 40, on the scale, which is maybe even 30. You're just not going to get a high. You're just not going to get a high pick or a high prospect. Salvador Perez obviously is a guy that has a lot of history with the Royals. The Royals cannot trade him because he's on the disabled list or the injured list, what they call it now. Ryan O'Hearn, no one's going to trade for Ryan O'Hearn. Every team has a Ryan O'Hearn, if not on their big league roster, but in the minor league somewhere. Again, you're not trading Mondesi, you're not trading Dozier. Cuthbert, everybody had the opportunity to get Cuthbert when he was exposed to the waiver wire process in the offseason. No one picked him up, so obviously he's not going to get any interest. Alex Gordon Gordon and Merrifield I want to talk about separately. Let's continue going around. Jorge Soler might draw some interest. Actually, I don't want to say might. Soler would draw some interest. All it would be dependent upon is how much money or how much are the Royals going to part, or how much is another team going to part with to get Soler? And I think the Royals, as they tend to always do, they tend to overvalue their players. And I think that, especially in this day and age where everybody is hitting home runs and the ball is flying out at record paces, I just don't see a team giving up a whole heck of a lot for Jorge Soler. Even though he can hit in, the 250 range or so with a good on-base percentage and power, that guy has value. And he's still relatively cheap, which is a plus for the Royals when it comes to trading. And he's healthy for the first time in his career, and he's hitting home runs at a very good clip. I think he's actually on pace to equal what Mike Moustakas hit in 2017 when he broke the team record. So Soler, maybe. Now, then you have to ask yourself: is Soler going to be part of the next wave? I guess. When you look at the Royals minor league system, there's not a lot there in terms of outfielders. The Royals are going to have to make some moves. They're going to have to make some trades to get some young outfielders who can play going forward, or that's where they're going to have to sign free agents. So let's move on now to the two big guys on the offensive side. We haven't even talked about pitching yet. So let's talk about Merrifield and Gordon. Let's talk about Gordon first. Gordon's not going anywhere. And several reasons why. One, he's a 10-5 player, which means that any major league player that has 10 years of major league service and 5 with the team that they're currently on, they can void any trade. They have to be the ones to allow for a trade. The Royals could say, some other team could say, we'll give you our top 5 prospects, and for Alex Gordon, and the Royals would go to Gordon and say, hey, they're going to give us their 5 best prospects. They're all rated in the top 50 in Major League in Baseball America. Gordon could say, nope, not going to do it. Sorry. Not leaving Kansas City. Not leaving my house. And he has every right to do that. That's part of the agreement that Major League Baseball has with the Players Union. And it's not a bad thing. It helps protect the players. It helps. They've earned that. It's a tenured thing. So, secondly, Gordon has publicly stated he wants to retire as a Royal. He grew up a Royals fan in Nebraska. He was drafted by the Royals. He came up with the Royals. He has a World Series ring, obviously. He's got multiple Gold Gloves. He's going to be in the Royals Hall of Fame. He's going to go down as, you could make a case for him being the second best player in Royals history in terms of offensive players. You could say definitely top 5 of all time. And if you've only started paying attention to the Royals when they won the World Series, you might not agree with that assessment. But what's that saying? Facts don't care about your feelings. I mean, the facts state that Alex Gordon is one of the best players in Royals history. And did he live up to the expectations? I don't know. If your expectations were him to become George Brett, then no, he didn't live up to expectations. But if your expectations were for him to become a solid Major League Baseball player who is going to go to the Royals Hall of Fame, and I think that's what anybody, I think in order to become a successful baseball player, or a successful pick or whatever, to live up to quote-unquote expectations, if they make the Team Hall of Fame, I think they've done that. Billy Butler in the same category. Heck, even Alcides Escobar's in the same category. He'll be in the Royals Hall of Fame too, and he deserves it. All right, so let's talk about the big one now, Whit Merrifield. Whit Merrifield, I go back and forth on this all the time. Should he be traded? Should the Royals keep him? All right, let's get the facts out of the way first. Whit Merrifield is 30 years old. Whit Merrifield has played, he came up to the Major League roster in 2016, played most of the year. Then he was a regular in 2017 and 18, obviously. So he's been a regular for 2 full seasons and probably 3/4 of another. Whit Merrifield has a very team-friendly contract. The Royals essentially bought out his arbitration years, plus 1 year on top of that. They didn't have to do that, but they did, because that's how Dayton Moore operates. Whit Merrifield has position flexibility. He can play any position except catcher. Well, and pitcher. And you know what? And he could probably play catcher too. He's that versatile. Whit Merrifield, he's just an all-around good baseball player. He's very similar to what Ben Zobrist provided the Royals in 2015. And he could provide another team similar type of production. My gut feeling tells me the Royals will not trade Whit Merrifield. Because that guy just ran a red light. That's really risky at this intersection because there's always cops sitting there. But there's no cop today. He's probably up there pulling somebody over going 40 and a 35 like he did me. Anyway, Whit Merrifield is going to command a pretty hefty load in return. Again, this goes back to the Royals overvaluing their players. The strike against Merrifield is obviously his age, but he's in good shape. Even at his age, he's up there in the league leaders in stolen bases and triples, and I mean he's just a really, really good baseball player. And someone's going to snatch him up if the Royals will part. Now, I think what the Royals do, I think if you're going to trade Whit Merrifield, I think you trade him for, you've got to at least get a top-level prospect who is an outfielder. I think the Royals think that they're solid at second base with Nicky Lopez going forward. Nicky Lopez is an on-base machine. I would like to see some power develop from him, but that might come. It might not. As long as he can get on base, that's fine. You don't need to hit home runs to be valuable. I would put the percentage at, I'd say it's probably the chance that Merrifield gets traded, I would say it's at 33%. I think it's got a 1/3 chance. I really think it's 3-1 that the Royals keep him versus actually trading him. I may have used that percentage wrong, but whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. I think it's a better chance the Royals keep Merrifield as opposed to trading him. The reason I say that is because they haven't traded him already. And a guy in his position at his age, and we see this, it's not many players get better as the older they get. Matter of fact, all players get worse the older they get. Some players, their decline starts earlier. By the time Billy Butler was 30, he was done. He was just washed up as a baseball player. Some guys continue to perform really well, through their 30s, obviously with some decline, but it's less noticeable than other players. Whit Merrifield has a good baseball body. He's athletic. So his decline probably won't be as big as other players will be, He could probably play at this level for another good 5 or 6 years until he starts to hit a little bit of a drop-off. We've kind of seen it in Ben Zobrist now. Zobrist is starting to, show signs of wear and tear, but is still productive. And I think that's what Whit Merrifield ultimately will be. So, he's probably going to play another 10 years at least, maybe 7-8 years as a starter, and then as a role player after that. Now, if the Royals can convince another team of those things right there, I think that's when they would make the move and they would make the decision to go ahead and trade him. And I think another team would give up something for that. Now, you're going to have to go into a team that has lots and lots of prospects. Excuse me. The Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves have a very talented farm system. I don't know hardly anything about the Atlanta Braves Major League team. But what I do know is that Dayton Moore obviously likes to make deals with Atlanta because that's where he came from. Now, it's been a while since he's been there. Dayton Moore has been in Kansas City now for 13 years? Is it 13 years today? It was like the 1st of June. Yeah, it's been 13 years now. Wow. A long time for a GM to be in control of a team. We'll talk about that later. So, I do think that if the Royals they're going to have to be completely blown away by an offer for Whit Merrifield in order to trade him. Like I said, I think it's a 33% chance. I think it's a 1/3 chance that they do trade him. I think it's more likely they keep him, just because I don't think they're going to get the return that they think they should get, and I think that'll limit them. I think it's much more likely that you see the Royals trade Danny Duffy. We'll talk about more about pitchers in another video. But I think it's much more likely that the Royals trade Danny Duffy as opposed to Whit Merrifield. So, who else could possibly be traded? Any number of players, honestly. But I think it's more likely the Royals trade Jorge Soler than Whit Merrifield. So, again, we'll be back, another video maybe later today, and we'll talk about the pitching side of it and who might be traded there. Jake Diekman, definitely at the top of the list. Jake Diekman will be traded. You can just put that one in the trade column. He is going to be traded at some point. My guess is that he'll be traded before the All-Star breaks, but we'll get more into that later. So everybody have a nice day. Thanks for watching.